Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reign of Troy Radio. This is a Cotton Bowl chat. We're calling it here on live on YouTube, and of course, coming to you wherever podcasts can be found. We're going to talk about the Cotton Bowl, USC and Tulane locking horns on Monday morning. Monday morning football, USC and Tulane in the Cotton Bowl Classic. Of course, that game will be on at 10 a.m. on ESPN. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Reign of Troy, on Twitter and Facebook. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Our email address is reignoftroy@fanside.com. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host and the star of the show in the Reign of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Deratola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. It is post-Christmas. Of course, we're coming to you on December 29th. We're post-Christmas. We're in the heart of bowl season. A bunch of Pac-12 bowls have already happened. We're just hanging out. We've already put out our Cotton Bowl preview episode on Monday night. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it either here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and you're listening to this, whether it be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever. Go listen to the preview as well. We offer up our predictions, place them over under, and all of that. So give that a little listen. And then, today we're just casually hanging out and talking some more USC football.
Yeah, I mean, I've even got the Cheez-It Bowl up on the screen behind the camera.
You would.
Watching the Cheez-It Bowl with Florida State at the moment up 18-17 on Oklahoma. Oklahoma just got a big fourth down stop. So,
yeah. Well, wait a minute. Are you obsessing about Oklahoma on a USC podcast?
I am not. I would be watching the Cheez-It Bowl and enjoying the hell out of the Cheez-It Bowl, no matter who was in it. It's my thing.
Yeah, of course. I will say that the field at the Cheez-It Bowl looks awesome. The logo, I love the
Have you seen the mascot?
No, I haven't seen the mascot, but the wall around the bottom of the stadium, like the wrap they have on that looks awesome.
Yeah, the
good uniform matchup too.
The Cheez-It Bowl mascot, who has a name that I currently can't remember, Prince Chedward. His royal cheesiness.
Oh, this is no thanks.
Looks like Lumiere, not Lumiere. The Clocksworth from Beauty and the Beast. But
never seen it.
It's a cheese wheel as his head. It's just everything about the Cheez-It Bowl. I love the Cheez-It brand. I love their embrace of college football and college football weirdness.
Prince Chedward.
Yes. I love it.
It vaguely looks like a put together Toomgis. It looks like Toomgis got a haircut and a shave.
I don't know who Toomgis is.
Toomgis, the AMPM mascot.
Oh, is that his name?
Yeah, Toomgis.
Oh, okay.
Who I always think looks like Justin Turner.
Okay, yes, I see it. Toomgis is Prince Chedward's brother who was disowned and cut out of the royal line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's not getting that family cheese.
No, he's not getting the cheese.
If Prince Edward takes a picture, he's
Prince Chedward.
Yeah, that's what I said. Prince Chedward.
You said Edward.
Not Team Edward. No.
Check the tape.
I am not Team Edward. I'm telling you.
Either way.
No, but if Prince Chedward is in a photo, like it would be a little too meta to say cheese, right? Like what do they say?
You say cheese. Say cheddar or cheese.
But that's a little
cheese is perfect.
Little too much.
They woke up feeling the cheesiest. No. Either way, it is one of my great failures in life that I did not attend. I have not attended a Cheez-It Bowl. When it was out in Arizona, I really should have gone to. I should have just done it. Just go to the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah.
And now that it's in Orlando, it would be significantly harder for me to get out there. But like that would be the ultimate consolation prize to a disappointing USC season if they landed in the Cheez-It Bowl. Like for me personally, it would be beautiful. Not saying I would trade a Cotton Bowl appearance for a Cheez-It Bowl appearance, but I'm just saying dudes who are playing in the Cheez-It Bowl got to spend the night in like a Cheez-It themed hotel room that looked like something out of my dreams. So
I think we need to go back and look at the box score of the infamous Cheez-It Bowl that everyone remembers. TCU 10, Cal 7.
The one that I was at Staples Center watching on my phone.
2008.
Yeah.
Of course, a game that went to overtime, as every Cheez-It Bowl should. Won on Jonathan Song won it with a 27-yard field goal, which is not a long field goal at all.
No.
But the best part of this is the game-winning drive was a 10-play drive in overtime.
10 plays starting at 35.
Starting at the 25.
Sorry, at the 25, and they kicked a 27-yard field goal.
A 10-play drive in overtime? How is that even possible?
Yeah.
And then, of course, this game famous for all of the turnovers, a combined 9 turnovers.
I love it.
Grayson Muhlstein from TCU threw 4. For Cal, it was Chase Garbers with 3 and Chase Forrest with 2. Cal starter got chased, literally. They're both named Chase, and whoever started didn't finish. But just an abysmal game. No fumbles from either side, but 9 combined interceptions. It's like a Madden game of my dreams, in the worst way possible.
Your nightmares.
Exactly.
Your Madden nightmares are that many interceptions.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as West Texas Mike says, I might trade a Cheez-It Bowl for an Alamo Bowl. Giving thanks, USC has never ended up in the Alamo Bowl. Yeah. I growing up, I always thought the Alamo Bowl was like one of those bowl games that was highly respected, like the Holiday Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Alamo Bowl became a Pac-12 bowl, and it's weird that SC never got there.
Yeah.
Considering how good but not great SC has been over the last decade plus, in the sense of like they've been in range to go to the the Alamo Bowl, and I feel like they've been expected to go to the Alamo Bowl every single year and just never went.
But USC's the reason USC hasn't gone to the Alamo Bowl is because USC's brand has been too strong in the years that they would have gone to the Alamo Bowl, because they would have gone to the Alamo if they hadn't gone to the Rose Bowl in
well, they would have gone in 2020,
right?
if it wasn't for
COVID. Yeah, so it's just a conspiracy to keep USC away from San Antonio.
Yeah, they would have gone in 2016 if it wasn't for the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And there were other times where they dropped to the Holiday Bowl, etc. But like SC was in the sweet spot to go to the Alamo Bowl a bunch of times, just never did. Yeah. Question from West Texas Mike: what was the most interceptions without a pick six? Was that the most interceptions without a pick six in a game? It's got to be, right?
I don't know where to find that stat. I don't know where to find that stat, but I would wager that if it's happened beyond that game, it's only happened a few times in the history of college football.
Yeah, just a wild game. And as I'm reading the ESPN recap, TCU's Juwan Johnson had the final interception of the night to open overtime, nearly returning it for a pick six. Have I ever told you what my ideal dream of overtime is? One play, pick six on the first play. Yeah. I want to know if it's happened. Like sometimes periodically I just Google it and I can never find it. You think in the, going on, what is it, like 27, 28 years now that we've had overtime in college football? It had to have happened once, right?
Not necessarily. There haven't been that many overtime games. I mean, you'd think there's been hundreds, but like there haven't been that many overtime games statistically to say that there would be a first play interception return for a touchdown. Like that's statistically improbable.
I don't know. I'm just saying it's got it.
Yeah.
It would be quite the quick OT if it was settled on the very first play, of course. While we were doing this pod, I have a poll up over on YouTube, and if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the stream, all of that. We helps grow the show. and so much more. And we always appreciate you guys joining us, whether it be live or afterwards. We've got a poll. How confident are you that USC will beat Tulane in the Cotton Bowl? The answers are very confident, somewhat confident, not confident, or very pessimistic. So far, 47% say somewhat confident, 40% very confident, only 13% not confident. Nobody yet says very pessimistic. So we'll check in on that as we go on tonight. But a little interesting because I was looking at some of the comments from the episode that we had on Monday, the preview for the Cotton Bowl, and Doc says 1992 Fresno State USC will lose because it's too late. Play the young guys and have no injuries. For a bet, sorry, fight on, just not on January 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one because, as we pointed out in that episode, the Pac-12 runner-up has not had a bowl win ever since the Pac-12 came to be. It is Tulane. It is a game that we're not sure the status on Caleb Williams, and we know that there will be an offensive line playing that is missing 2 All-American level linemen.
Yeah.
And it's a Tulane team that's going to be raring to go out there and get a win. And USC may not even no-show and still could lose this game. So I think the right answer to that poll is definitely like vaguely hopeful of like of a win. I wouldn't be uber confident. I wouldn't be uber pessimistic. I would just say that we'll see what comes and find out on earlier than I would like on Monday. It's a tough game. It's a tough matchup, and I would love to see USC go out there and just absolutely blow them away. But you also have to be realistic here. So,
yeah, this is one of those things where I think it's going to be really interesting because if this game was, say, the first game of next season, I would be predicting SC to win by 10 points.
Yeah.
10 to 20 points. I think the line is probably SC by 17. I think if the game was in November, I would be predicting SC to win by 17 points. That is the situation that it is with the injury, the injuries to Voorhees, Nealon, and Caleb Williams. I think it just, and then you add in the factor of the whole like letdown bowl game scenario. We've seen it so many times, and this is why bowl games are so weird to predict, because you never know the up or downness of teams and all that stuff.
You can put 36.
Opt-outs.
You can put 36 points in a confidence pool on Ole Miss, and then
this is true. Yeah. Of course, we're talking about Caleb Williams, and he was throwing practices today, Thursday, at Cotton Bowl practice with a sleeve on his leg. Practice was only open for about 15 minutes, and reporters had videos of him throwing the ball. Nothing major in those 15 minutes. No necessary, like, they weren't running team drills in those 15 minutes, just throwing the wide receiver line. But so we don't know the extent of his participation, but it looks like he's going to be able to play. Of course, Lincoln Riley said last week that he expected everyone but Nealon, Voorhees, and Addison not to play. So all things continue to say that Caleb Williams is playing.
And I'm starting to buy into it. I was very skeptical a few days ago, a week ago, that Caleb Williams would play. But the more I've seen of like the videos, the more I've seen of what's going on in there. I suppose they're staying in Arlington or somewhere in Dallas for the Cotton Bowl. I'm starting to sort of get the feeling that, yeah, Caleb's going to play. The question now is Caleb's going to play at what speed is he going to play? Are we going to see the Caleb that is as mobile as we saw him all season? Or are we going to see him sort of go in with a game plan that is drop back, get the ball out, don't use your legs? And It is entirely possible that's the game plan we see. Just because, when you're dealing with a hamstring, you just can't open up as a runner, right? So,
Yeah.
if we saw him just sort of try to stay in the pocket, try to just get the ball out quickly and have that be the game plan, I wouldn't be surprised. I will still be skeptical until the moment I see him out in stride that he is fully 100% healthy from that hamstring. But at the same time, like, if anyone was going to do everything possible to get their, sleep in a hyperbaric chamber or whatever that it would take to have the hamstring be ready to go, then, it would be Caleb Williams. So I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to believe that he'll play, and we'll see what level he plays at.
Yeah, to me, it's not necessarily about whether or not he plays; it's the level because, of course, we saw the Utah game, and it'll be over a month, or just about a month, right? Almost exactly. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I think that I know that it's not fun to say we'll see on a podcast. People want the solid inside scoop and all that stuff, but you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that going into a big game, especially with the quarterback. Those things are sort of tight to the vest. We'll see exactly what the level is, and that Lincoln Riley is even saying that he's expected to play. I think is a big thing here. I think he could have absolutely hemmed and hawed and not done anything. Although I assume that saying that he's going to play the whole time is playing the game of the not masking the injury, but not necessarily talking it out in every single detail. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side of the ball, going from quarterback to cornerback with practices, Damani Jackson is getting talked up on the defensive side of thing. Adam Grosbard from the OC Register tweeted that he was talking to USC defensive vets today, and the standout was Damani Jackson. Quote, he's just had a mindset of that he wants to get better. He knows he's going to play a lot this game, and leading up to next season, he wants to be the guy, Max Williams said.
Yeah, this is a big one actually because I think that, we spend a lot of time talking about Caleb Williams and what his status will be for this game and what the offense is going to be able to do with the offensive lineman out and with Caleb Williams questionable hamstring situation. But this is a real test for USC's defense. Tulane has a really good running back. They have an offense that can score and know what they're about. And so this will be a proving ground for that defense. And knowing that Damani Jackson is ready to go and healthy, which is not something he's been throughout the season, is a really big plus. Looking at it and looking forward to seeing guys like Eric Gentry and Shane Lee and those guys be a little bit more healthy and have their sort of time off to get their bodies right, and then to go out and show basically fans what they have to look forward to next year as far as the hopes that go into the defense. I think it's gonna be a really interesting defensive performance. Tuli Tuipulotu is gonna be playing, so more or less the defense that USC played the season with is going to be present. I shy Raylan Goforth, I would imagine, although I haven't really necessarily heard anything particular about whether or not he's still at USC. He committed to Washington, so I'm gonna guess no. but it's gonna be a test, and having Damani Jackson out there playing opposite Mekhi Blackman is gonna be worth watching for USC fans because Mekhi Blackman is gonna be gone next year.
Yeah.
Damani Jackson is going to have to step up and be the guy,
Yes,
and take over that number one spot on the defensive secondary. So, really, really intriguing situation to watch there for USC on defense.
Yeah, this is why I think that the Sun Bowl can Sun Bowl. Jesus.
Jeez.
Cotton Bowl. Sorry for all the PTSD that I just riled up there for people. But the Cotton Bowl can be sort of fascinating for SC regardless of what way it goes. In that, let's just say that there was a million more opt-outs, right? That Mekhi Blackman wasn't going to play, and Shane Lee wasn't going to come back, and he opted out, and so on, and all these other guys opted out that haven't opted out, right? I still think the game could have, and then SC came out and said that Caleb Williams wasn't going to play, etc. I still think the game could have been very fascinating to watch in the sense that you see all the guys that you want to see in game action that you haven't yet. or that you haven't for a full game. And you just throw them out there and let them crash and burn and see what they can do. I think it'd be very fascinating to see what Miller Moss could do in a whole game. I think it'd be very fascinating to see what Domani Jackson can do in the whole game and say, you've got this the entire game. Just go for it. See what you can do. Get burned or, snag a couple picks. I don't care. Do what you need to do and have fun with it, right? Like, I think it'd be very interesting to see what that looks like and give guys an opportunity to make plays and really sort of cement their positioning going into spring to get ready for next season. We're not going to see that at most positions because SC does only have one opt-out, and it's Jordan Addison. But, even he had an injury issue, so it's not a true just opt-out. But Domani Jackson is still going to give SC that sort of appearance if he's going to be someone who's going to have a big focal point on defense. You want to see that going into next year, especially with the transfers and everything. We talked about the kid from Arizona that's coming over, whose name escapes me. That has three last names.
Christian Roland Wallace.
Yeah, 3 last names. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they could all be first. They're 3 first names too.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 first names.
He's got 3 hybrid names.
Three potential first and last names. First name, last name. Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian Roland Wallace. The law firm of Christian Roland Wallace coming over from Arizona. He wants to be the next Mekhi Blackman, right? He wants to have that job locked down. Sierra Wright wants to have that job locked down. Well, Domani Jackson's going to have to go out and prove that not only is he the 5-star guy, but he's also not the 5-star guy who's going to expect the job just to be handed to him, right? Yeah. So, more power to him. We'll see what happens against Tulane going up against Michael Pratt and his bevy of receivers. As we talked about in the preview, Tulane has a ton of receivers that he can throw the ball to, and they all have the same exact production. They're all in the 30s in terms of catches this year. So, a lot of guys for SC to get ready to defend against. Turning the page, talking more about the Pac-12. The conference so far 2-1 in bowl games. Oregon State beats Florida in the Vegas Bowl 30-3, an absolute pounding. Good for Oregon State finishing off their season to get to 10 wins. Fresno State, USC's USC's victim, sure, beat Washington State in the battle of teams coming back to coming back to LA after having lost to SC earlier in the season, aka the LA Bowl. Fresno State beat Washington State 29-6 in that game. And then Oregon last night in another classic Holiday Bowl. Holiday Bowl, by the way, to me should be a playoff game. Like it should be like in that. You're saying that it's more like if the Peach Bowl can be, why can't the Holiday Bowl?
I mean, fair, but it's also a game that currently was played at Petco Park last night. So,
that's valid.
If they had
Bowl, why is it not at the new stadium?
I mean, if they had an actual real life stadium to play it in, then maybe they could make that argument.
New stadium for San Diego State. Why isn't it there?
I don't know.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But no, the prestige of the Holiday Bowl is no better than, no worse than the Peach Bowl.
Yeah.
It's probably better. It's like if the Peach Bowl can be but
because
anyways,
it was played at a rundown Qualcomm for 20 years.
Sure.
Like, I get Holiday
that.
Bowl's got problems. They don't have any aspirations for that.
The point is the Holiday Bowl has a bunch of classic games, and Oregon and North Carolina had another classic one last night. Bo Nix throwing a touchdown pass on 4th and 2 from the 5-yard line.
Which, by the way, I think he was short.
I think he was short too. The cameras just didn't exactly get.
It's kind of crazy to me, and I know these are meaningless bowl games, so like I get why they wouldn't necessarily invest all that kind of money in the camera equipment at these games, but like to only have 2 angles of that touchdown, it madness.
Yeah, it was a little peculiar, but he gets in to the end zone, and Oregon scores the touchdown. They go for the extra point for the win, and it hits off the upright and bounces in. A miracle doink, as Kenny says in the chat. It was wild, a wild win for the Ducks, who erased a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Good on the Ducks for getting that win. Win number 10 for them. Both teams in the state of Oregon combined for 20 wins all told, which means that the Pac-12 currently has 5 teams that have 10 wins on the season: Utah, USC, Washington, Oregon State, and Oregon. The Bruins, of course, play Pitt in the Sun Bowl
on Friday.
On Friday, and by the way, the Sun Bowl is a Pitt, so that Pitt is in the Sun Bowl against UCLA. Kind of fitting
works.
to me.
Yeah, it works.
It works. My grandma, rest in peace. You're not hearing me say this. I know that the Sun Bowl was very sacred to my grandma, an El Paso native, but let's be real, it is the Sun Bowl. But if UCLA wins that game, 10 wins for the Bruins, which means half. As Eddie Murphy would say in Raw, half the Pac-12 will have 10 wins. Half.
And a lot of those teams are bringing back a lot of talent and a lot of their core for next season. So I think some of the discussion right now is that the Pac-12 looks like it's going to be really, really good next year. Utah, we don't know what Cam Rising is going to do, but I don't know. I'm sort of assuming that he's going to come back. Washington has Michael Penix back. Oregon State just picked up DJ Uiagalelei, and Oregon is getting Bo Nix back. So those teams are certainly all set at quarterback. UCLA is losing DTR, but they just landed a 5-star quarterback in recruiting, Dante Moore. And Chip Kelly has also, found quarterbacks from other places. So we'll see what he does as far as keeping UCLA on the trajectory that they've been. And then you look at things like, ASU picking up Drew Pine and the sort of other teams in the conference that are doing interesting things.
Well, why wouldn't Drew Pine go to Stanford?
Because he chose ASU, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, there's, maybe there's...
you're making a tree joke. Okay, I knew there was something I wasn't
getting. The dude's
getting.
named Pine. Go to Stanford.
Yeah,
what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, play for the trees.
Either way, the Pac-12...
Spelled differently, of course.
The Pac-12 is very intriguing. You got Colorado with Deion Sanders bringing in a bunch of transfers and a bunch of sort of new stuff going on there. You got USC coming back with the Heisman winner. It's going to be an all-out brawl. So it should be really fun next year to see what the Pac-12 does. It would be extremely Pac-12 for everyone to fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
So I'm not ruling out that possibility, but it's set up to be a really cool 2023.
Yeah, I was thinking about just yesterday that not only is it going to probably be the most anticipated year in Pac-12 history in terms of this era of the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Think about it. Utah will be ranked in the preseason top 25. SC surely will be. Washington surely will be. Both Oregons will be. That's 5. I presume UCLA will be ranked in the top 25.
I think if anyone was going to fall out, it would be UCLA, and that's just because they lose DTR, they lose Charbonnet, some big names. But
there's going to be some weirdo that gives Colorado a
vote. No question about that. Somebody's going to give Colorado a vote. I don't know if they'll have enough to be in the top 25, but somebody's going to give them that.
Someone will give them a vote. That's my early prediction for August, that somebody will give Colorado a vote.
Hey, Fox Sports is already out here pushing the idea that Deion Sanders' son is the Heisman favorite. So
yeah, okay,
yeah, yeah, okay,
yeah. Anyways, I think Colorado's. I mean, the Deion Sanders experiments. I think will be interesting to see how it all comes to be. My prediction for a lot of that stuff is that it'll probably end up the way that that Herm Edwards did, in the sense of he is hiring a staff that will be too good to fail initially. And we'll see what happens. And, it's getting talent that it's absolutely going to be there, but I still think it's going to be a super uphill battle, and a lot of things could end up going haywire at Colorado, because it is Colorado at the end of the day. But picked a bad year to come into the Pac-12 next year when everybody is bringing back a ton of talent. And SC's going to the Big Ten sort of at a sucky time because I like next year is going to be the last year for Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix in the conference. So maybe it is just like 1 year to
One and done.
really duke it out. But like it is going to be a hell of a year. But not only that, SC's got a bunch of big games at home next year. We talked about it that the vibe of the Coliseum. You and I did not go to a game at all this year. And yet watching games on TV, it never looked like the Coliseum was really a vaunted hostile environment until the Notre Dame game. And that was everything that we had heard was that way too. And next year, SC gets Washington at home. They get Utah at home. Like those are two huge games.
UCLA at home.
UCLA at home. Yeah, those are three huge games.
Mm-hmm.
Along with Nevada and
Washington, Utah. So one of the Arizonas, I guess.
Yeah, Arizona. Yeah. And Arizona,
Yeah.
a punchy team with Jaden DeLara and everything they've put together. It's going to be a hell of a home slate for the Trojans. So we'll see what comes with the Pac-12, whether or not UCLA can become the sixth team to win 10 games. I do think it's interesting that there's been a lot of talk. Our friends over at the POC, Podcast of Champions, have talked about how great the Pac-12 was this year and that it wasn't just about parity. Can I just say, and I agree that the problem, I absolutely agree with Dave Woods talking about, the Pac-12's problem has been that they just haven't had a playoff team in terms of construction. And because if you do, you'll still get there, and SC would have gotten there if they would just finished off the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah.
But I understand the idea that Larry Scott is gone, so we don't want to talk about parity. But isn't this parity? It's potentially 6-10 win teams, and we all think that the Pac-12 is great this year, but it's still parity.
Right, but you're number one.
We don't mind parity when they're good teams.
No, the issue was never that parity was something that the Pac-12 wanted. The issue is that parity was put ahead of having the playoff team. You need parity is nothing if you don't have a playoff team, because then you don't get the playoff dollars. That's the issue.
Right.
So the issue for the Pac-12, more than Larry Scott to me, was that USC was run really poorly and UCLA settled for less, and Oregon couldn't get the job done on their own. That's really what happened. Is the would-be powers in the Pac-12, with the exception of Oregon, and Washington for a stretch there, weren't, and neither of those teams were ever good enough to actually do anything in the playoff.
And then Stanford lost the 9 a.m. game to Northwestern and got screwed at the end. Yeah. So, it's the Pac-12 has had a knack for stumbling over itself, and you can say that it happened again with Utah taking SC out of the running for the playoff, but that's still on SC to win the game, right? Yeah. It's still on SC to win the game despite the injuries that happened in that game. So, all right, we got questions. I want to start with a text message we got from our good friend Kenny Martin from Traveler Hates Thursdays. Rest in peace, Traveler Hates Thursdays, the best USC podcast there was. And we need them to get back together. The people in the chat, please urge Kenny to get Traveler Hates Thursdays back together. We all need to see it. Kenny says, in the summer going into 2017, you guys took a deep dive into 2012 because of the parallels. Follow up a great season, preseason expectations sky high, what went wrong, etc. It was one of my favorite episodes. Any interest in doing a 2017 deep dive this summer going into the 2023 season, given that there's parallels from 2022 to 2016?
As soon as I saw this question, one of the parallels that jumped straight out to me was the offensive line question, because in 2016, USC lost 2 All-American offensive linemen. And when they went back and they brought back a dynamic, national award-winning quarterback in Sam Darnold, and when they came back the next year, the offense felt more limited because it was depending more on Darnold to be the hero instead of depending on the offense as a whole. Now, I think the difference in that situation is
It
that
also exposed Darnold because then his turnover stuff really came to
really
bite
came
them.
to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference between a comparison between this coming season and 2017. I do think the offensive line stuff could be much, much bigger than people are making it out to be right now. I think USC still has to do a lot of recruiting in the transfer portal to add at least one additional plug and play starter, particularly at left tackle or something like that,
Yeah.
to make me feel better about this offensive line going into 2023. But the difference, the big, big difference, is that in 2017, USC had an offensive coordinator, an offensive scheme that was propped up by the All Americans on the offensive line, by Darnold, by Rojo, by everything that happened that season in terms of the way that that season presented itself on the back end. USC struggled mightily in the front end and then got a bunch of got a run into that end of the season with a bunch of teams that actually weren't that great. So USC just got to steamroll through them. And then USC got to play a Penn State team at the end of that season that, as fun as that game was, I mean, I'll say it here, James Franklin is not an elite head coach, and that team was never an elite team. So USC had some advantages that were sort of clouding over some other issues. And in 2017, a lot of those issues got exposed. Now you go and look at this team. The offensive line, definitely a question. The defense, definitely a question.
Mm-hmm.
But USC also has a proven offensive coordinator who has coordinated offenses that were, 40-point offenses averaged every year for the last 7-8 years.
Can I push back on the coordinator thing? Not to put any down on Lincoln Riley, but more so that at the time in 2016, Tyson Helton came in, and we talked about it at the time that the passing concepts for SC had gone sort of, they had taken little pieces from the air raid. It wasn't the air raid when like we were going to talk about with Kingsbury and Graham Harrell, certainly, but we talked about how the efficiency had gone way up on the passing side, because I remember that SC in like passing SP plus was like 4th going into the Rose Bowl in 2016, and it wasn't nearly that efficient in years prior, even under Sark, when SC was efficient in the passing game. Like it still had taken a bigger step forward in 2016. So we at the time put a lot of emphasis on it being Tyson Helton. So I think at the time we were thinking that SC was going to be in a good place coaching wise because of his input on the passing game.
Yes, but Tyson Helton is not Lincoln Riley,
right? Proved not to be the
like that's to
the
me
foolproof
that's
plan.
the biggest difference between then and now, is that for all his flaws, and Lincoln Riley's Achilles heel might be that he doesn't have a defense and he's not willing to be ruthless enough to get a defensive coordinator.
I've seen that on Twitter.
People have told us this many, many times.
Yeah.
Which, maybe that's the case. But if nothing else, USC will have a really, really competent offense. And they're not going to take that much of a step back because they have Caleb Williams and they have the staff that they have in place and the system that they have in place, and they have playmakers in that system that will sort of recreate a certain amount of success, even if it's a lesser amount of success. The biggest challenge for USC going into next season with regards to this comparison is the 2017 defense was extremely important to USC's success that year. The 2017 defense was the reason USC won the Pac-12 title game, because they had those stops and they had those players, those impact players like Rasheem Green and Uchenna Nwosu and Christian Rector and Cam Smith. And I guess the question for USC going into this coming season is, do they have those kinds of players? Is there a Rasheem Green if Tulu Tuipulotu doesn't come back? Is there an Uchenna Nwosu type on this defense? Is the addition of Mason Cobb enough? Is the development of Eric Gentry or the arrival of Tackett Curtis or whoever you want to pin your hopes on, like, can they rise to the level of what USC's defense was able to do in critical games in that season. And that's not to say that that was an elite defense by any measure, but for the most part, they didn't fall apart. And this defense that USC has now has fallen apart. So, can they put themselves back together? Can they find those standout players who are going to keep things rolling on defense? Because, the 2016 defense was considerably better than the 2022 defense. Will there be more of a matchup on that side of the ball? I'd have to sort of do more looking into that to decide if there are parallels.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to do the deep dive. I think there's going to be a lot of parallels. I think that we did a nice little skeleton discussion of talking about the differences there, and why to feel more confident in SC in 2023 versus 2017, because of Lincoln Riley's history and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think defensively, I think you have to talk about, looking back on 2017, it was how is SC going to replace Stevie T? Stevie T was such a vital aspect of that 2016 defense. And here is SC 6 years later, and they don't even have a Stevie T. And they have to replace a Stevie T after not having a Stevie T. So,
well, and that 2017 defense missed Stevie T a lot. Like, that was the talking point of the whole season. And that 2017 defense was still better than the 2022 defense that we've seen from USC in terms of consistency at the very least. The consistency is really where this USC defense has let the team down, certainly in the last 6-7 games. So
yeah.
Look
at line yards. SC was in 2016 with Stevie T on the defensive side of the ball. SC was 28th. Without Stevie T in 2017, 82nd.
Yeah, and what is USC in line yards in 2022?
Defensive line yards, 95th. So there you go.
So, yeah.
There you go. Kenny in the chat says the schedule for 23 at this time looks much harder than 2022 too. Yes, this is one of the factors that I wanted to talk about with 2011 versus 2012. I remember there being a big talk about one of the reasons that SC was so good in 2011 versus 2012 was because the schedule worked out. That yes, in 2011 SC has to play Oregon on the road in Eugene, but if I remember right, they ended up they missed somebody. Who did they miss in 2011? They missed somebody. Off the top of my head, I can't remember who they missed. They missed somebody
in 2011. USC played
versus 20. No, sorry, in 2012, there was the influx of all the TV money, which allowed all of the uptick in coaches. So in 2012, you had like Rich Rod coming into Arizona, and Arizona in 2012 was like much better than 2011. So like SC's schedule in 2012 was just considerably better than it was the year before.
They also had to go to Utah. They had to go to Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
They still played Oregon, etc. But yeah. And next year's schedule is going to be harder because they don't miss Washington. They swap out Washington State for Washington. That's going to be tougher.
Yeah.
And they swap out Oregon State for Oregon. And at best, that's going to be a wash.
At best, it's a wash. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's probably harder because Bo Nix is going to be in year 2 in Eugene. We saw how good he was this past season.
Now, the only, I mean, Oregon has their own questions going into next season. They lost their offensive coordinator. They lost their co-defensive coordinator who just got hired by Baylor. So they're dealing with some brain drain that it'll be interesting to see how Dan Lanning recovers that. But also Oregon, like you said, they returned Bo Nix. They've recruited well. Like, they will continue to have a very competitive team. So certainly I think you would rather play Oregon State, even a stronger Oregon State that's coming into their own, than Oregon just on a talent level. Like, USC is always going to out-talent Oregon State in terms of just lining up. Right. That doesn't mean you're going to beat them because they're a well-coached team and they are up-and-comers, but like you'd rather take the on-paper matchup against Oregon State than Oregon.
Yes, and you just factor in the SC literally went to Corvallis and still won that game.
Yeah.
Needed a miracle to do it, but they still won that game, probably a game that they should not have won.
Yeah.
Versus having to go to Eugene when they haven't been there in 8 years.
And also having to go, as Kenny pointed out in the chat, Notre Dame, you're going there.
Yes.
And while you get UCLA at home, like the difference between USC and UCLA home away is significantly different than Notre Dame USC home away.
Yeah. ASU is harder in Tempe than it is at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Etc. Even though who knows what ASU is going to be next year anyways. So
yeah.
Great question, Kenny, and absolutely sign us up for a deep dive on 2017. I'm not sure how many people want us to hear us talk about that Cotton Bowl. But I think the episode at large, I think, would be fascinating to see how SC can sort of manage coming off of a season with expectations and going into another season. Can they avoid that? They didn't last time. And I like the call of like bringing that up because we sort of sussed it out that, going into 2017 after 2016, maybe you should be worried because the last time that happened for SC, they didn't back it up. So
at the same time, 2017 was a Pac-12 title winning season. It was very, very frustrating season.
That's the great irony.
But it wasn't.
They didn't back it up, and they went 11 and they went 11-3.
They went 11-3. The issue is you can't get blown out by Notre Dame.
Yes.
Right. The 2017 is perceived very differently if it's not a blowout to Notre Dame. And then the Cotton Bowl was just more of the just frustration that era of USC was, because even when things were objectively good, 11 wins, those 11 wins felt very different than the 11 wins that USC got in 2022.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're just joining us, be sure to vote in the chat. There's a poll that's joining us there. How confident are you that USC will beat Tulane in the Cotton Bowl? Currently, 41% somewhat confident, 38% very confident, 22% not confident, and nobody's pessimistic yet. So that seems to be good for us.
Got a question from Twitter from De La Cruz. What are your expectations for Gino Quinones, who is going to be starting at left guard, we believe?
Yeah, what say you?
I think he'll do okay. I mean, I think he'll do okay. I think I tend to think that we won't come out of the, I hope we don't come out of the Cotton Bowl talking too much about the offensive line. I think that the Lincoln Riley is going to scheme around knowing that he has a bunch of starters out on that line. And I think that those guys have now been coached up by Josh Henson for long enough that they'll be able to plug in and take care of business. I did not notice Gino Quinones when he started against Arizona. So that would be my hope, is that we don't notice him all that much. The plus side is going against a Tulane front.
Mm-hmm.
That is not, if you're talking about like sort of physical matchups, I don't think that the matchup is built to sort of Cyrus Hobby him. I don't think that's the situation that we're going to be facing when it comes to evaluating the offensive line.
Yeah, I'm less worried about Gino Quinones, and I'm more worried about the offensive line just being completely different than it was in the last game versus the game before.
Yeah.
I think SC can replace one guy.
But they're replacing.
But it's hard when that one guy is Andrew Voorhees.
Yeah, and Nealon.
And then you add Nealon on top of that. The problem with replacing Andrew Voorhees in the Pac-12 championship game is they weren't replacing one guy, because they still moved everybody around. Like, they moved guys around. And like, the only thing that I think that the one thing I think bodes really well for Gino Quinones is he's had the whole month to practice.
Yeah.
These 3 weeks of practice leading up into this game, he's known he's going to be sort of the guy to start. And
he's been practicing next to Justin Dedich and next to Bobby Haskins. And
this isn't like the Cyrus Hobby game where Cyrus Hobby had like a couple of days to get ready for Stanford in 2012.
Yeah.
This is where they've had weeks. And I think that helps build up chemistry there, because, but if you're going to move the guys around as much as they are, Dedich going from guard to center and all that, like, you got to build up the chemistry some way. And luckily, they've had
This
3
is
weeks to prep for it.
Yeah, this would be the time to do it. We got another question on Twitter from Tennessee SC Trojan. Will the Cotton Bowl experience this time be better than last? 2018, I almost got in a literal physical fight with an OU fan. The only time I've ever almost thrown down with opposing fans. OU fans are the worst. Second question, how will that play out once we join the, I think he means OSU, Ohio State, once we join the Big Ten?
I don't know. I have not had, like, in my history of going to SC games, I've had two bad experiences with road fans. And it was at Colorado in 2002 and at ASU in 2007. I've never, like, I don't know. I've never experienced like bad Ohio State fans or bad Michigan fans. I know that they exist, but guess what?
Every fan base has
There's bad
fans.
SC fans.
Yes.
Like every fan base has their share of toxicity, right? So it's just I don't know that that's going to carry over to the Big Ten. I think initially, I think SC fans are going to be greeted probably very warmly. You look at Utah fans, right, and how warmly they greeted SC when they came into the conference, and vice versa. I think that's what happens. I think that's what happens. SC is going to be the new kids on the block, but it's going to be like, you sort of go on your, I don't want to say best behavior, right, but like you're excited to see new people.
Yeah, and then it will deteriorate as rivalries form,
right?
And as bitter wins and losses are handed out. So just remember that no one fan represents a whole fan base. All fan bases have really bad fans. The only thing you can control is whether or not you are one of those bad fans for your fan base. So, that's tough. Will it be a better Cotton Bowl experience this time? I hope so in general. For people at the stadium who are watching USC hopefully not play the way that they did in that Cotton Bowl.
So it's a noon kick in a game that we know that there's a bunch of cheap seats available.
Yeah.
I don't know that the atmosphere inside Jerry World is going to be necessarily great.
That's fair. It's certainly not going to live up to what it was last time.
And Ohio State travels really well. I expect Tulane to bring like everybody that they can. So Tulane absolutely will travel well. This is their first like huge bowl game in decades. So this is a big deal for them. And I think everyone in the college football world is excited that Tulane's there. So and feels good about Tulane. Tulane's sort of the, I think of, in March Madness when part of the reasons why March Madness is so difficult is because if you're an upper seed, you're basically on the road for all 6 games. Nobody wants you to win.
Mm-hmm.
If you're number 1 Duke and you're playing against the 16 seed and it's a 3-point game in the second half, everybody in that building is rooting for the 16 seed.
Yes.
And SC fans will be there absolutely, but any sort of someone who's not necessarily committed to rooting for SC there is not going to be rooting for SC.
There will be Oklahoma fans. Oklahoma fans.
Okay. You know how many OU fans are going to be there?
Like 5.
But the same number that showed up to Area 51 that day. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
They made like 7 arrests that day like 7 people actually showed up or whatever it was. There will be 7 losers.
Yeah, and they will be the vocal ones that annoy everybody. So just sort of live with that.
Yes. Yeah. But don't worry about that.
Just like I said, you can only control whether or not you are the bad egg of your fan base. So
Remember, Marty in the chat says Tulane alumni are not as many as SC alum. Yeah, for sure. SC's a much bigger school than Tulane is.
And so it's just, the thing is, it's easier for Tulane alumni to get from Tulane to Arlington than it is for USC, especially. Again, and they will have more reason, like more enthusiasm.
Yeah, SC fans are looking at this as going back to Jerry World for the 3rd time in 7 years.
Yeah.
Tulane fans are like, oh my God, we're in a Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you bring everyone that wants to back the wave.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be probably pretty pro Tulane inside the building for sure. Anyways, I think that's all we got.
All we've got is to update that Florida State is about to attempt a field goal.
Okay.
They are currently tied with Oklahoma with there's under a minute left. They don't currently have the time on, but yeah, this could come down. There's 59 seconds left. So this will be an interesting finish to the Cheez-It Bowl.
To kick the field goal, do they have to get a Cheez-It and like kick it on its edge?
See, that would be fun. That would be another.
That's what the
another
halftime
element.
thing should be instead of the Dr. Pepper.
Just do like
chest,
the little
chest
the
pass
little
thing.
like.
By the way, I'm so over the Dr. Pepper thing.
It's
at conference championship games.
I am too. Especially because it feels like these people are competing for scholarship money. It's like, why not just give them both the damn scholarships? Florida State, right down the middle, to go up by 3 over Oklahoma with 55 seconds to go.
All right.
So yeah, but no, I agree. Like the Dr. Pepper thing, just sort of like, and especially this last, I forget what game it was, but they did it, and then the two girls like tied, and they went into overtime, and then they tied again, and then they like they had like a coin flip tiebreaker, and then Dr. Pepper came out and was like, okay, fine, we'll give the other girl it too. And it's like, yeah, well, because like everyone wants these people to get scholarship money. It shouldn't come down to how well they can do a chest pass with a football. I don't know.
In other news, penalty kicks should not decide World Cups.
I mean, would you rather have golden goals? I think those.
Yes.
No, golden goals are equally unfair.
How is a golden goal unfair?
Because you play a period of time, and then the first one to get a goal is the one that wins.
They both have an equal opportunity of possession. It's not a turn-based game. It's not football.
Play out your 5 minutes or whatever, and then if you win in that 5 minutes, then you win. But
how are you? You're really anti-golden goal?
I also don't mind penalty kicks as a decider. I think people who are anti-penalty kicks as a decider need to go out and sprint for 120 minutes.
No, thoroughly, yes.
And then tell me that they should continue to play.
No, I don't think they should continue to play on it like earnestly, but I am like pro golden goal. Because if they just come on, there's been how many times does it go to penalty kicks and it's 0-0, right? Like they could play all day and maybe never score, especially if they're like worn down. Like, no, I'm not advocating for that, but at least golden goal. Come on.
Nah, I don't like golden goal. I'd rather do penalties.
You are a weirdo.
That's just me. I also think college football overtime is the best overtime.
Well, it is until they started to ruin it.
Well, and NFL people would tell you that their version of golden goal was the better version.
No, there's no one even in the NFL that likes their overtime. Like,
well, the NFL overtime is literally the worst overtime in all of sports. So here's the thing: people who don't like penalty kicks, like watch an NFL game. Like Americans hate ties, but like NFL games can end in ties. Why don't they just do a penalty kick? Do the shootout at the goal line kind of situation so that you don't have to deal with ties. Remember the proposed? Oh, I guess is it even still in college football?
I don't know. At that point, why not just like Rochambeau for it? Jeez.
Well, I mean, Americans hate ties, so
I'm fine with ties. By the way, in the regular season.
In the regular season,
yeah.
Like I think that's
hockey. What do we really need a shootout in January 15th? No.
When
just call it a tie.
In the regular season,
baseball.
When
you know what I would do with baseball?
Huh?
You play up.
You like play up to 12 innings
up
or something?
to 12 innings. After that, it's a tie. Also, I would do it. I would have a 8-run mercy rule. 7th inning.
That's not fun.
Done. Or you can concede the game.
Well, I don't think teams would concede the game, to be honest.
Are you kidding? Teams already do it when they throw in the position
player. Well, that's true. Actually, that's true with managing pitching staffs. They would.
Yes, they absolutely would concede the game. Allow mercy to exist.
Yeah.
Like, embrace it.
Well, especially if they're going to be putting position players out there, like, don't insult us by having them out there and acting like the game is still actually going on. Like, now it's just a gimmick.
Yeah.
To protect arms. So either don't let position players pitch or allow a mercy rule where, instead of having the indignity of throwing Albert Pujols out on the mound, just end it. Like, clearly you've already decided that you've ended it.
SJ says they should do the Dr. Pepper challenge to settle on. That's
I like it.
That's possible. They could do that, but
yeah.
All right. We will be back Monday afternoon with the CarCast after USC and Tulane play in the Cotton Bowl. Be sure to make your over-under picks. The link is in the description, wherever you can find that on your Apple Podcasts, your Spotify. Here on YouTube, it's in the description as well. Right next to the like and subscribe buttons, which you need to click on as well, too.
Yes.
Be sure to give us a review over an Apple Podcast. It helps grow the show. This, of course, our last recording of 2022. We'll be back next year, 2023, which is very exciting. 2022, the year of the podcast growth for us. We moved to video, pivot to video, and unlike FoxSports.com, I think it panned out for us.
Yeah, it really did. Oklahoma just lost to Florida State, so congratulations, Seminoles.
Losing record in every season after Lincoln Riley for the Sooners.
Tebow and all that crap, but
yeah.
Yep. All right, it's time to go eat dinner.
All right, and lastly, Mexican hot chocolate, not good, folks.
Don't even start that.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.